Welcome to week 9 of the best year of my career. A year where I focus on music, money, marketing, and mindfulness as a way to take my musical career to the next level. This week, I'm going to make the complete opposite video that I made from last week. Last week, I was talking about the complexities of social media, how it can yield some unwanted results, how if we let it, it can deter our careers, confuse us, and lead us astray. How success isn't immediate, and how social media creates that illusion. And you may have gotten a vibe that I was in a rough place last week. That wasn't necessarily the case. I would say I'm more in a growth phase. And what is really interesting is I'm making the complete opposite video from last week. And this week's video was shot about 4 hours after I shot last week's video. And that's so poetic and illustrates the point that I'm making, is that success isn't immediate. Growth and progress isn't immediate. And sometimes you feel like you are stagnating, but you're really building a strong foundation and you're a lot closer than you think you are. And was I a different person from last week when I shot that video? No. The time difference literally from last week's video to this week's is 4 hours. And in those 4 hours, nothing changed, but my perspective did. I was able to see that a lot of my intentional efforts were slowly starting to pay off. That the foundation I've been focusing on building was coming into shape. That I'm a lot closer than I think I am. And that I'm pretty tough on myself sometimes. And that real growth, you don't realize that you've grown so much until after you've actually grown. It's that delayed gratification. And I view it as building the foundation of a house. Building the foundation of a house takes time. It takes patience. And you don't see it every day. You don't see that progress. We get excited when we hang window curtains and we can see an immediate change. But you don't get the opportunity to really hang those curtains until you built a really solid foundation. Or you could bypass that solid foundation, build up something flimsy, hang curtains, feel cool for a minute, and then it all comes crumbling down. I've had that happen. But this time around, I'm really building that foundation. And last Sunday was a reminder to me that that foundation is there, and I'm a lot closer than I think I am. And I'm not posting this so much for my benefit, but to use this as an example for other people. If you feel like you are dead in the water, you are spinning your wheels, be consistent, be regular with your efforts. Sometimes you don't see it right away, but you're really planting seeds, and eventually those seeds will start sprouting. But you need to be regular with them, tend to them, invest into them. Sooner or later, it'll happen. So I hope you enjoy this perspective. It's almost like night and day from last week, even though it's only 4 hours. It is Sunday night, or technically Monday morning at 4 a.m. This is no man's land for anybody, regardless if you're a night owl or an early riser. And I thought about capturing this tomorrow morning, but I wanted to capture it when it was raw, when I was just thinking and feeling and processing everything. I still have my camera and my lights set up from filming something earlier tonight where I almost didn't go out. And my number one goal, again, is to be a musician, is to create. All the social media stuff, that's secondary. So I told myself, all right, I'll go out, and I'll only go out for an hour, and then I'll finish this video and maybe be asleep by 2 a.m. And I go out, I hear other musicians play. And mind you, I'm making $0 tonight, and I need money. And if I'm not making money, I need to be doing things that help make me money. Maybe that's like building my social media base. But I ultimately got into this to play music. And I'm amongst other musicians, and I'm talking and hanging out with basically my friends, my peers. And I'm enjoying myself. Why do we get into this? It's not to make money. It's not to get followers. It's because, oh, you really enjoy playing music. And I got to sit in with a killer band tonight, and it was great. I loved it. And I got to film some of it. And before and after, I got to talk to a lot of my musician friends, my peers, new friends, old friends, people I've met online but never met in person. Hell, I even talked to a drummer today who got a gig that I was trying to get when I first started playing in Nashville. And I was so envious of, and I wanted that. And I learned every song from this particular artist. And I never got a chance to audition because the gig got filled by somebody who knew somebody. And I never got a chance to show that work. But that's the business. And I met this drummer who got the gig, and we talked about it and we laughed about it because I honestly had not thought about that in 2 years. And oddly enough, a bassist who I'm friends with and who I played gigs with before, and who is actually on my YouTube channel and some of my videos, he's playing on the gig right now. And there was no animosity at all. And I was talking to this drummer for maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes before, oh, I was supposed to have that gig. You're playing that gig? Cool. And it was literally like we laughed about it. And I met a couple other drummers who found me on YouTube and found me on Facebook. And we all chatted tonight. And I was giving them advice, or not even advice, I was sharing my experience from my first year in town. And I wanted to say that I can't say that this is gospel, that this is the way to go, but this is what my first year was like. I hope this helps you. And I think I ended up talking to about 3 or 4 drummers that I had never met in person, but had started following me on YouTube. And at the end of the night, we all took a picture together. And it's like we were all chatting, and it was freaking great. And I'm like, wow, we are all wanting to achieve the same things, and we're wanting to do it together. So, of course, I'm exhausted and I want to go home. And as I'm walking home, I'm like, wait a second. I know that guy. And I run into probably one of the best guitarists I've ever played with. I played about a year with him when I first got to town. And it was very much cutting my teeth on the country music scene. And this guitarist, he's playing with a major national act right now, but he happened to be in town and he was picking up a shift. And he and I chatted for a second. And he said to me, oh, I see you're doing the influencer thing. And he clarified that he didn't mean that in a negative way. And I didn't take it that way at all. But he recognized, oh, you are really talking about these things that maybe not everybody talks about, or that's not commonly spoken about or understood in our circles. And we chatted probably for about 20 to 30 minutes, probably far too long for either of us because I'm so exhausted right now. But I was so happy to see him. I hadn't seen him maybe in a year or longer. And it drives home the point that I'm not a Tennessee guy. I'm not a Nashville guy. I'm not a Southern guy. I grew up in Pittsburgh, spent most of my adult life in Chicago. I identify with these very different scenes. But Nashville, it didn't feel like home, but it felt like I belonged there. And one of the things that I kept on hearing today is that Nashville is so welcoming to people. And it can be very tough, right? And you can get your ass kicked. I got my ass kicked and I still get my ass kicked on a daily basis. But the unique thing about Nashville is it seems like everybody is supporting each other. Everybody wants everyone else to succeed. I'm so full right now in the sense that I've made a lot of great friends here, and I'm continuing to do that and continuing to meet great people who influence me. And hopefully, I can influence a lot of other people in positive ways. And it's an interesting time in my life because, on one hand, it's some of the worst and most turbulent times in my life as I'm transitioning from one phase to the next. But it's also the most rewarding as these seeds that I've planted are sprouting. And I get to share those with other people. And there's a whole networking community of friends, both old and new, that I get to share my harvest with. If I can speak metaphorically as one does at 4 a.m. on a Monday morning. So Nashville is an interesting place. It can bring out the worst, some of my greatest fears, which I talked about today, and some of my biggest struggles. And I put away that video. I say, I need to take a break for an hour to go out, hear some music. And I end up being out for 3 or 4 hours and just hanging out with my friends, new and old, having a reminder of why I'm here, why am I alive, to play music, to help other people. Now, when I wake up tomorrow at 8 or 9, I'll probably be singing it a little bit different tune. But, Nashville, the music industry, life in general, it can be a very magical place or a very scary place. And both can be true at the same time. And you can be struggling with things, but also succeeding in things at the same time. And you can feel so alone, and in the same regards, break out of your comfort zone and feel so loved and so accepted and so part of a community. I guess one thing I'm realizing about tonight is that we write our own narratives. The future that you want is within your reach. It may not seem easy and it might seem far away, but I think it's a lot closer than you think. And a lot of it's about patience and about your intentions and who you truly are. And I think I truly am a drummer. I truly am a musician. I truly am somebody who wants to help other people. And I thought about that. Maybe I need to do that through physical therapy or rehab. And maybe I wasn't good enough to be a musician. But I hear a lot of other musicians saying the same thing. They feel like they're not good enough to be a musician. And I'm here to tell you that if you want to be good enough, you can do it. Tell yourself, I belong. You'll get your ass kicked a couple times, more than a couple times, but I'll have your back. And other people in your circle will have your back. And then one day, it won't be next week, next month. Maybe it will be next year. Maybe it will be next decade. But you'll be like, oh, I belong here. I've arrived. Maybe you haven't arrived, but maybe you finally feel, oh, I'm comfortable in my own skin. And I think if you can put yourself out there, get out of the screens, and get into the real world, it's scary and uncomfortable. And maybe not every day pays off, but sooner or later, it works out. So I have no idea when I'm going to edit this video, but I wanted to capture this. Not necessarily to be a social media influencer, but to really document the realness of this process. It's not easy, but sometimes if you just keep going out there and being intentional with your work and your efforts, it catches you off guard and you realize, oh, I belong, I can do this. I'm much better than I thought I was, or much more accepted than I thought I was. And if these videos help you, if they feel like they give you some insight, all I ask is you subscribe, you follow, comment, share this with a fellow musician or a fellow human being who feels maybe they don't belong. Because I think that's something that afflicts a lot of us. And I'm here to say it's all right. We're all outcasts in some way, but don't tell yourself that story. You can write your own story. You can write your own future. It's not easy, but it can be done. And I wanted to give you hope. But one of the things that I commonly say, and I've told to a couple other drummers tonight, is that Nashville is not a talent show. Nashville is an endurance race. You might have some talent, and that might give you a leg up, but it's really about who can stay standing the longest, who doesn't give up, who's willing to work, who's willing to put in the time on their instruments, but also in shaking hands and meeting people and just being a good person. So ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen? What if you went up to the stage and said, hey, can I sit in tonight? I don't know you, but I would love to sit in and play. What's the worst that could happen? They say no? Cool. Your ego gets bruised? Cool. Just go back the next week. Life can surprise you when you, instead of think about trying to avoid fear and pain, instead of thinking about what's the worst thing that could happen, ask yourself, what's the best thing that could happen? I think doing that, not just in music, but in life in general, can pay some serious dividends. It's not easy, but anything worth having is never easy. So as you can see, totally different tone. Nothing changed except my perspective. And sometimes everything comes together to make you realize, but you just gotta keep at it. Remember, music and success, it's not a talent show. It's maybe 5% of it. It's really a marathon. Who can stay at it the longest? Who can stay the most consistent with their pace? who doesn't get too high or too low. If you enjoyed this video, any interaction really helps this channel. Follow, subscribe, comment. If you know of somebody that this could help out, please share it with them. This channel is all about you. I'm using myself as a vehicle to show what it's like to build a career. I hope it inspires other people. And if you would like to help inspire other people, you can do that by helping grow this channel. We accept tips and donations at the PayPal link and the Venmo link at the end of this video, or simply interact to help support this channel and grow it so we can monetize it on YouTube. And again, I say we because it's not my channel. It's a community channel. It's for you. And speaking of community, if you would like to participate, I do my weekly live chats on my YouTube channel every Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I answer questions. Talk about all things Nashville, music. Talk about the things that we don't always get to address in music school or in the fancy, shiny Instagram posts. Till then, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.